quick as we've been partners, we've already had like really good qualified channel leads from Odoo. It actually kind of surprised me how fast that came in.
Thank you for joining us here today.
Of course, thanks, David.
Happy you were able to. Please introduce yourself for everyone at home, and could you tell us a little bit more about Guru Technologies?
Absolutely. So, my background, I was a .NET developer back a long time ago. So it was engineering roots is my background. Then did that for a number of years. Then I co-founded as a tech co-founder of a company. And we got acquired in like 2014. Then I went over to that pendulum swung from a startup, right, all the way to IBM. And I was there for 6 years. And that's where I kind of really learned about like big ERP systems. You know, we were doing like SAP implementations for like billion-dollar companies, right? And I understood the vast complexity of like ERPs at the time. From my startup days, I built my own startup. I mean, my own ERP and I didn't know about Odoo back then. And I really wish I did, by the way. But man, it would have saved me hours and hours and months of time. And then I went into a mid-sized consulting company, and now I am running business development here at Guru Technologies.
That's awesome. It's quite the journey there, and it does sound like if you knew about Odoo back then, that would have saved you a lot of trouble.
It would have saved me so much time. I every time I go through the mall, I'm like, why did I know about this? You know, and the customization was really the key thing that we needed for my business particularly.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and we do hear that from a lot of customers, and I think that's sort of the beauty of Odoo is that you can either functionally set up or you can customize to your heart's desire to get where you need it to be.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I understand that you're recently new to the partnerships, Guru Technologies is.
Absolutely.
So could you talk a little bit about your decision-making process and how Odoo strategically fits into your growth goals?
Absolutely. Well, let me back up a little bit and just tell you a little bit about Guru itself. So Guru Technologies, we're based in Utah. Started the company 20 years ago. We're 50 plus engineers, all onshore. And I'll say this because it's pertinent because it's post-pandemic, but we are 3 days in office, right?
That's good to hear.
Because a lot of companies aren't, right? But we are 3 days in office, and these are, our engineers. And we don't really, we played with the idea of doing nearshore, offshore, but we are an onshore model right now. And these guys, we do full stack, web, cloud, and mobile, embedded, IoT, Bluetooth. Basically, there wasn't the president and I talk about this, but there wasn't any kind of software engineering project that he said no to. He just tackled it. And the portfolio is very, very technically wide, right? There's so many cool things that we've done like healthcare, life sciences, oil, retail, agriculture, obviously e-commerce, and a number of startups, right? So over 200 different projects that we've done in that number of years, but a lot of interesting work. And so that's kind of the background of Guru, right? And it's important because that kind of leads into why I chose Odoo. And I got brought into really, because we were doing very bespoke, custom web applications. In some cases, we were building ERPs actually for our customers, right? And they take longer, they're more expensive, but they're very customized. So you get it exactly the way the customer wants. And as I was looking at which technology platform should Guru actually attach itself to, I was really thinking about a couple things. And it came down to like three things, essentially. It was the market opportunity that Odoo is in, and then how does it really align with Guru's capabilities today in our engineering alignment, and then the last thing was like, where is this platform going to be, right? I didn't want to choose a platform that was at its peak or near its peak, right? Because then as a partner, we'd be kind of late to the game. So those are the three main criteria. And I'll kind of go deeper into the first, the market opportunity, right? The ERP space, I think it's like $80 billion today globally. This is small, medium business and enterprise inclusive. And the CAGR, when I looked it up, was over 13%. So it is on track to double in size over the next 10 years. So there's a huge opportunity here. Furthermore, right, Odoo actually serves small, medium-sized businesses, which is because they've always been underserved, you know? There's no ERP. Again, like IBM would never touch a small, medium-sized business and implement SAP. It was just too big, right, for them. And so, unfortunately, they were kind of underserved, running their business on spreadsheets and QuickBooks and massive all these, disparate systems, right? And so they didn't really. There's nothing out there except for Odoo, right? That would really kind of serve them. So the small, medium-sized business, I think, is like 60% of that 80 billion. It's actually larger than the enterprise space. So there's huge opportunity here. So that's kind of what I saw as like one of the criteria. What was the opportunity for a technology platform that Odoo should actually engage with? The second thing was our engineering, right? Again, we're full stack. A lot of our developers, I think like 70% of them are like extremely proficient in Python. It's like the same stack that Odoo is built on, right? And so Odoo is built on an open architecture. So that allows us, and our capabilities is very strong technical expertise engineering team to extend the capabilities of Odoo, integrate into other complex, right, systems, and on top of that, we can build on top of Odoo, right? So it made like a really good fit for us from terms of our capabilities and our expertise. It made sense. Our engineers wouldn't be very happy just going around picking and choosing as like a, let's call it an admin, right, level. But it gives clients the flexibility to really build on top of it. But they get like 60, 80% out of the box, ready and done. So it meets them where they're at, right, faster. So that was like the second thing. The third thing I looked at that really made it kind of compelling for me was where Odoo was, right? I did the research, I looked at the numbers, correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys are over $500 million in revenue. I think on track to 650 or 700 million. I might be wrong. That might be low.
We'll be there soon. We'll be there soon.
So I think you guys are really close, right, to that number. So that looked at a healthy number. The investment by Google Ventures was huge, putting you guys at over $5 billion market value. So I'm like, okay, Google Ventures made this investment. They're doing over $500 million in ARR, right? So I had to de-risk my position in what partner I'm going to choose. I didn't want to choose one that was at its peak, but I can't choose one that's super new that might fail.
Yes.
Right? And in that kind of playbook, what I also saw was like, again, I was at IBM. IBM made the acquisition of Red Hat. Red Hat, most people know, like it's built on Linux, which is open source. 90% of enterprise customers actually use Red Hat Enterprise, right? 400 or 500 customers use Red Hat specifically. So I mean, like that's a big number. So there's a power in open source, right? Android is another example, right? In 2009, I think less than 2% of mobile phones use Android. Today, it's over 75%. Again, open source OS. So again, there's a power in open source that can really penetrate into the market if it's supported well. So I see Red Hat as like an enterprise version. Like Odoo is kind of like the Red Hat of ERPs, essentially, right?
Yes.
And that's all I see. So I think Odoo is like not even close to its peak at all. So I would really want to attach this as a partner, as an early partner, right? But that was like the three main decisions of like why I felt Guru was like a perfect fit, and why Odoo was a perfect fit for Guru.
Yeah, no, it sounds like there was a lot of melding, capabilities that you had were easy to jump in the partnership program. The fact that you already knew Python, and it's actually great to hear from somebody in engineering. Because I tell customers every day that it's one of the most common development languages in the world. So you can generally find somebody that has expertise in Python. So really,
Yeah.
you're just bridging that gap of what architectural knowledge that you need to know, because you're not fighting over, what language it's actually coded in.
Exactly. With a big ERP system like this, and the clients that we work with, right? Yes, we work with startups, but we work with a handful of billion-dollar companies, right? Some are publicly traded, right? And for them to really convert over their entire ERP system probably is very low, but maybe approach it with a small instance or a capability in this area, maybe CRM or something, and then grow is like the strategy, right? Where I see Odoo playing, because the pricing model is also very fair. It's like it's very approachable for small, medium-sized business, and actually very inexpensive compared to the other ERP systems for larger-sized businesses. The cost savings will be, the ROI there is like almost instantaneous.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
we just released sort of a calculator where you can compare your current
Oh, that's
single-use
awesome.
software spend. Yeah, it's on
Yeah.
our pricing page, and it's definitely something that I've seen drive conversations there.
Yeah.
A lot of times when those SMB customers, or maybe even some of the smaller mid-market type customers come in,
Yeah.
they might not necessarily really know ERP, or it might have that old stigma that ERP used to have.
Right.
But I think that conversation is starting to change. I was talking to some of my colleagues the other day, and I believe ERP and AI are two of the most popular search terms, in the business, software
Oh, that
market.
makes sense.
And I think a lot of people are really realizing that, ERP doesn't have to be complex. ERP doesn't have to be, this big sort of situation that you get yourself
Right.
into, that I've heard from some people, and I think on the sales side, having that simplicity in the way we bill, and, understanding what you're paying for, it makes that other conversations so much easier, because
Right.
you're able to come in and say, look, this might be complex, but you're not going to, eliminate your cash flow for the next 6 months by moving forward with this, right?
Right.
You can plan that out, and sort of have some budget stability, and sort of preserve that, because I think, right now a lot of customers are really wanting to be able to keep a lot of cash on hand to,
Yeah.
react to the markets.
And I'm very surprised how fast implementation can be, right? And integration into someone's business. Again, coming back from like a big company who used to do this, I mean, implementations were 24 to 36 months, right? I mean, like you're signing it and then you are 36 months out until you can actually use it. I mean, it's kind of wild, right? In the Odoo world, that's like, you kidding me? That's really far out, right? You'd be on version 22 by then.
It's super, super quick. And I think I remember seeing a LinkedIn post from one of our partners, a couple months ago, and they had a customer, you may have seen it. They were a large enterprise level customer, and they went live in a month.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's unheard of in this space. Yeah.
Exactly. And, I'm sure there was more to do, right? It
Yeah.
was probably just,
Yeah.
phase one. But I think the fact that you even have a system where that's even feasible to be done one time,
Yeah.
I think that really shows the value in ease of use, for you as,
Yeah.
as an implementer.
Yeah, and I agree. And that again, it was all those points why it made it easy, right? And I was looking at a lot of platforms. I was comparing, like, I really wanted to approach it with a lot of analysis and really I really wanted to de-risk our position. I didn't want to go and say, okay, we're going to go into this platform and then find out later that it was the wrong choice. So I had to really make a good conscious choice, because we were making huge investments into being a partner, and it just kept on making more sense to me. And now that the conversations are just coming up more often, like, and not even from the business development team, like from the engineering team. They're like, oh yeah, I built this custom version of it for one of our clients in the past, right? And it's like, wow, Odoo has this out of the box, like 80%, right? So it's very interesting, and I love that, because now we're actually having this discussion where maybe we should approach our past clients, and say, we have this solution. It's not custom, but the ROI is going to be there, right? Fully supported, cost less, in fact, in many ways. So it's kind of coming back a lot more than we expected. So,
Yeah, no, and it's great that you're having that experience as a new partner, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there maybe watching this right now
Yeah.
that, they're probably asking those same questions internally, making those same
Yeah.
decisions. So it's great that you were able to kind of share, a little bit of how you made that decision-making process. And one thing I kind of want to back up on,
Yeah.
you said, when you were looking for a solution, you didn't want to go with something well established, but at the same time, you didn't want to go with something too early. And I'm thinking some of that is the support services that Odoo provides, not only to the customers, but the partner network. But could you speak a little bit about how you know, potentially maybe or have already leveraged some of those services to assist
I
you?
mean, I'll give a shout out to our channel partner, Sarah. She's been awesome to work with, and she was assigned to us, and she's been just fantastic to work with. She's already given us really good qualified leads, and we're working with these customers right now in solutioning for them, and it's been just fantastic, right? So already, like, just as quick as we've been partners, we've already had like really good qualified partner leads from channel leads from Odoo, and it actually kind of surprised me, to be honest, how fast that came in. But these are like really good leads for us, and we're very excited to help them. We've had multiple discussions with them, and hopefully things are going to move forward. But I think it's been really good. So there's that. And I'll say that I've been in the office a few times, met everyone here. Everyone's really great. You can sense the culture, right? That Fabian built, and I saw somewhere in a deck somewhere about his focus on culture, and you can really feel it, here at the conference, in the office. It's very apparent, like what he built is very solid and strong, right? And I think that's very important for a company for its growth as
Yeah.
well, right? Because you can have all the numbers that I talked about earlier, but if the culture is kind of missing, it can fail,
Yeah, no,
right?
and I definitely get that. You know, I can say my time at Odoo, I've been at Odoo for a little over 3 years now this July. And, you know, it's been a blast. You know, one of the best things I tell people about this job, not only is our product great,
Yeah,
but the people I work with every day. You know, I genuinely love going into the office. I love seeing them. You know, there's a lot of collaboration there as well. You know, if maybe I'm having a partner that, you know, might be struggling with some challenges in some areas, you know, we can collaborate internally to come up with strategies so that, you know, even though that other colleague might not be getting, you know, anything out of it, so to speak, you know, they want to make sure that everyone's succeeding. And I think there's that culture that, you know, everyone wants anyone involved in
I feel
Odoo and the
that.
ecosystem to be
I
successful.
totally feel that. Yeah, I mean, again, not just from Sarah, but like her manager, Edward. Like, it's everyone's just like willing to chip in and help, right? So it's very collaborative, and I love that. Yeah,
No, that's great. I'm happy that you've had that experience as a new partner, and I think that's something that has been pretty common with most of these conversations I've had today. Is that, you know, everyone is my account manager, and that's
yeah,
that lifeline between you and Odoo,
absolutely.
and I think, you know, if we do our jobs well, you know, everyone's going to come away with a win. You know, we're going to increase our business growth, but then the customer is going to get a solution that works, and they're going to have that support network for them, you know, whenever they need anything new, upgrades, maybe there's a technical issue, further development, you know, bring online new modules. But I think it's great that we've created this
Yeah,
ecosystem around our product.
and the flexibility has been really good too. We have um, just from our PLO team, and Sarah, Marie, Edward, you, David. I've just been feeling, even the other partners. I've had partners already reach out to me, like, how can we collaborate, work together? It doesn't feel competitive at all. Even though in some cases it should be, but there's so much. Again, going back to my original points of becoming a Odoo partner, is the pie is so big. There's
Yeah.
so much market share here, right? That the SMB space for ERP is vast.
Yes.
And so there's no reason why we shouldn't just be like working together with partners with Odoo all together. So I think I think the future is bright, basically, with Odoo and for any partners who
No,
are looking to join. Or
I
uh,
definitely agree there. You know, I think that's probably one of the things that help with partner collaboration is the fact that everyone realizes that, you know, right now, even though we've taken massive bites out of this pie, there's just still so much more to go around.
yeah,
And I think approaching any collaboration with that mindset has been fairly successful. And I've actually done a lot of partner collaboration myself
that's
in
awesome.
my time here, and encouraged that collaboration. And I've had a lot of good feedback, and a lot of good feedback from customers as well. They don't feel like that, you know, everyone's just trying to come in and win the
Yeah.
business. You know, they're trying to come in and actually genuinely support them.
Yeah, it's funny. I have these client conversations, and I kind of mention Odoo, and then they kind of go on their own, they do their research, and they're like diving in. They're like, this is so cool, right? Like, and they're exploring more things than I expected, right? And they're like, oh, this is something that we can solve. And then we kind of have our next meeting, our follow-up meeting, and they're like, yeah, we're ready to, like, we had a client who just moved forward. I just mentioned to them, they like bought licenses already, right? It was just wild, yeah.
Yeah.
So they just felt the power of it immediately, yeah.
No, and it's great to hear that, because I think, we're one of the few softwares where people learn about it and they genuinely get excited because they really see how much it's going to streamline their business, how it's going to improve their productivity, and realistically at the end of the day, make their day-to-day life
Right.
much, much easier.
Yeah, and I'll say this because Odoo is Belgium born, right? And it's we're sitting here in San Francisco where a lot of the tech is typically born, and it kind of hits the US market and then it goes worldwide. But in this case, it kind of started the opposite.
Yeah.
And again, 140,000 companies are using it, but mostly in Europe, in Asia, but not as much in the US, right? And again, that was just a strong signal for me. It's like, wow, I don't usually get that signal. It's kind of the opposite, but if it's working globally for other companies, there's no reason why it shouldn't work here. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think more people are starting to realize that. I remember when I first got to this company, you would call someone up on the phone, and you'd have to do a lot of explanation. Do you remember our website, right?
Yeah.
So, it was maybe about 5-10 minutes of doing that before it would snap in their head. Oh yeah, I remember that. I started a trial. But now, I'm calling people up and they're like, yeah, my buddy told me about this, or, my colleague, he uses it at his company and he felt I should take a look at it. And a lot of them are like, hey, I've never seen a solution that's so feature rich
I know.
and can be complex, but is so simple to just jump in and, start messing around and figuring out how things work.
And at the price point that you guys are selling it for.
Exactly.
It's incredible.
Some people think it's too good to be true sometimes.
Yeah, what's the catch here?
Yeah. No catch at all. You just want you to have a good experience. No, and it's great. And, one thing I want to leave, I'm sure that, with your wealth of experience and, custom ERP and some of your custom development projects, did you have anything specific that makes Guru Technologies stand out that you wanted to share with us here today?
So we have, again, a strong 50-person dev team and just very passionate about engineering, right? I'll be working late one night and walking around and I'll see a few devs working. I'm like, oh, what client project are you working on, right? And it's, oh, they're working on their own pet project, right? Like, that's when I know that these are passionate about engineering.
Yeah.
So I think that's like maybe a unique thing about Guru is that we hire really passionate engineers. And very technical. So, and again, that why Odoo complements our kind of DNA, so to speak. It's, you could do Odoo online, you could do Odoo SH, you could do, we could help put Odoo in a Kubernetes environment and put it into your AWS or Azure, set up pipelines and all that as well, right? If you need to. And like, that's kind of the cool thing about Guru is like we have really strong, passionate engineers. Our founder is an engineer, right? We have AI summits every month, right? We try to stay on the cutting edge of technology. We're really pushing our team. We encourage every single one of our engineers to really push the limits of their own skill sets, right? So I think that's makes us a little bit unique. We hire passionate engineers, people who love engineering. It's not just like I do this, I come in and I leave. Like, no, I do this, I get paid for it. That's cool, but I also do it on the side, which is awesome, right?
Yeah, and I think that really does make a difference with development and anything with engineering is when you have that passion, you have that drive, you're not going to just give the client what they want. You're going to give them what they didn't even know they needed.
Exactly, yeah.
No, and it's great to hear that. And I think, there aren't many partners that can, support a team that large,
Yeah.
For such a long time as well. That's one challenge that a lot of partners face is, do I offshore? Do I stay onshore? Well, there's always drawback and, benefits of both. Maybe you might not be the most affordable partner under the roof, but I think the expertise and the way that conversations can be driven, it's a very different experience.
Yeah.
And I think it's one that, more and more customers are realizing there is value there, and they're seeing that, it does make sense to pay a little bit more, but
Yeah.
now I know I'm with, somebody that's stable, potentially at least, onshore, or maybe even local, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of businesses in Utah that, probably could use Odoo. And I think
Absolutely.
that's one other key decision-making point in the partner selection process is how easily can I reach out to them, not just online, but if we needed to do an on-site visit, if we needed to talk about a complex project, can we do that? And I think having
Right.
that staff there really
and,
helps.
and that's a really good point, Dave, because ERP systems, they're replacing really big functional pieces of a client's business, right? And delivery is so important aspect of how to get this ERP implemented into their environment. And when you're working offshore, again, I know it can work because I've done it in the past, but it adds a layer of complexity on top of that. With the time zone changes, regardless of like the skill set, and the time zone alone makes it just difficult, right? And so, if you're working with India or something, there's only a few hours of overlap that's going to happen. It's like someone's got to sacrifice, or they're working late at night, or we're working late at night, right? To have those meetings, it's like just a couple hours. If we're on the East Coast, we may get like another hour or two, but it's just logistically difficult, right? So it kind of puts a burden either on someone, either your offshore partner or your nearshore team or onshore team, right? So it does. So I mean, I think maybe that's where we're a little bit unique. We have that capability of just doing it all here, and again, we're in Mountain Time, so we're kind of in the central, so we can serve our East Coast clients and our West Coast clients. It's a couple hours off, and we've been doing that for 20 years, and it's just a model that has worked for us really well, right?
That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
So, but it's something that we have explored in looking at, at least near shore, but for right now, it's just a model that has just been proven and it's working out for our clients.
No, and that's great to hear, and I definitely wish you, success going forward. We're happy to have you in the partnership program, and hopefully we'll continue seeing you, as we continue to hold this event here in San Francisco.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to thank you again for sitting down with me today, and
thank you for
having this
having me. I really
conversation.
appreciate it. Yeah, this is a fun conversation. Yeah, letting us talk about it and express like how we ended up here, and it was awesome. Yeah, I really appreciate it.